There's a single molecule that decides whether your brain can rewire itself, and most people are accidentally killing it. It's just about a protein called BDNF, and it's made by your body, your muscles, your gut, your sleep cycle. If your body isn't producing it, well, no amount of journaling or affirmations will stick. I'm a neuroscientist, and when I discovered this during my own brain rewiring challenge, well, it changed everything. So today I'm going to show you what BDNF is, the 4 body systems that control it, how to stack them into a protocol, and how to time your mental rewiring to your biological windows of peak plasticity. Hi there, I'm Yvette, I'm a neuroscientist, and on this channel I like to use brain science to, well, help us get unstuck in life. So if you're interested in this, well, you have to follow for more. So imagine trying to rewire your house with, well, no wire. You've got a blueprint and contacts for an electrician, but nothing to actually build it with. And that's what's happening in your brain when BDNF is low. BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is a protein that acts like a fertilizer to the brain. It does 4 things that are directly relevant to brain rewiring. It keeps neurons alive. It promotes the birth of new neurons, especially in the hippocampus, which is the brain's memory and learning center. And finally, it strengthens existing pathways through long-term potentiation, which is the cellular basis of learning. So without adequate levels of BDNF, the brain is structurally resistant to change. This is the missing piece that explains why some people do all the right mindset work, the habits and the visualizations. However, nothing sticks. Their biology isn't supporting the change their mind is trying to make. And luckily for us, BDNF levels aren't fixed. They fluctuate dramatically based on what your body is doing, which means, well, that they are hackable. But BDNF isn't primarily controlled by your brain. It is controlled by 4 body systems. And the first one might be the most powerful drug for your brain that exists. What if I told you that your muscles are an endocrine organ, and every time you move them, they're sending chemical messages directly to your brain, telling it to grow? So skeletal muscle produces pro-BDNF during contraction. So moderate to high intensity aerobic exercise, which is around 60 to 70% of your max heart rate for 30 to 40 minutes, and you do this for 3 to 4 times a week, this robustly increases BDNF production in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. A landmark study in 2011 showed that exercise training literally increases the size of the hippocampus and improves memory in older adults. So your brain physically grows, but the type of exercise matters. Activities that combine physical and cognitive challenge, like dance and martial arts, well, these appear to be even more effective than simple cardio. The intricate motor patterns and balanced demands engage multiple neural pathways simultaneously, and potentially enhancing BDNF production, beyond what a treadmill session alone would do. And a meta-analysis of 18 randomized controlled trials confirmed this works, even in people with neurodegenerative disorders, such as Alzheimer's, for example, because exercise elevated BDNF in patients with Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. So exercise seems that it manufactures the raw material your brain needs to build new circuits. And without it, you're trying to grow, well, a garden without soil. So exercise does the trick, great. But there is another system in your body that can destroy BDNF faster than exercise can build it. And if you don't address it first, well, all that movement is fighting an uphill battle. Your brain has a region that is basically ground zero for both memory and stress damage. And chronic stress is shrinking it right now. The hippocampus, the same brain region where BDNF drives neuroplasticity and neurogenesis, contains the highest density of cortisol receptors in the entire brain. And so all of this makes it extraordinarily vulnerable to chronic stress. So here's the mechanism. When you experience chronic stress, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis stays activated, pumping out cortisol continuously. Prolonged cortisol exposure directly suppresses BDNF production, creating a vicious feedback loop. Cortisol shrinks the hippocampus, and a damaged hippocampus can no longer properly shut off the stress response. So you get more cortisol, more hippocampal damage, less BDNF, and less capacity to rewire. Cortisol also suppresses BDNF through another route. It ramps up neuroinflammation and increases pro-inflammatory cytokines, which independently block neuroplasticity. So chronic stress attacks BDNF from 2 directions at once: directly and through inflammation. So this is why brain rewiring stalls for people under chronic stress. You literally cannot grow new neural pathways while cortisol is actively tearing down the scaffolding. And this connects directly to something I talk about a lot, which is baseline before goals. If your stress system is dysregulated, addressing that is the rewiring work. It's not a distraction from the real transformation. Well, it's the foundation. And well, if you would like to assess your baseline and see where it is, well, for you I have made a free brain rewiring starter quiz to assess the 3 most important areas in your life contributing to this. The link will be somewhere in the description. Okay, so exercise builds BDNF, stress destroys it. These 2 are the accelerator and the brake. But the next system is a little bit outer, because the most critical phase of brain rewiring happens while you're completely unconscious. What if every night your brain was deciding which neural pathways to keep and which ones to throw away? And bad sleep meant it was throwing away the ones you spent all day building. BDNF-dependent synaptic consolidation, which is the process where new neural connections get strengthened and made permanent, happens primarily during slow-wave sleep. During the day, you create new patterns through deliberate practice and new thought habits. And during sleep, those patterns either get saved or they get discarded. But sleep does something else extraordinary. The brain has its own waste clearance system, called the glymphatic system. During sleep, the interstitial space in the brain expands by roughly 60%, and cerebrospinal fluid flushes through, clearing metabolic waste, including the toxic proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. And interestingly, a 2026 human trial confirmed that the system clears amyloid beta and tau from the brain during normal sleep, and that sleep deprivation significantly impairs this clearance. Recent research has also identified the mechanism behind this, which is the synchronized oscillations of 2 things, norepinephrine and cerebral blood volume. All of this happening during non-REM sleep, creating a pumping action that drives fluid through the brain. Interestingly, a sleep aid drug suppresses these oscillations, meaning that not all sleep is equal for brain maintenance. So, sleep isn't rest from brain rewiring. The construction crew comes in at night to either cement your new pathways or demolish them. And if your sleep is compromised, well, you're doing the daytime work, but, well, never banking the results. So far we've got the accelerator, the brakes, and the consolidation phase. But there's one more system, and it's the one that controls the chemical environment your entire brain operates in. About 90% of your body's serotonin isn't made in the brain. It's made, well, 2 feet below it, in your gut. And your gut bacteria are running the factory. The gut microbiome modulates production of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, GABA, and also dopamine. And these are the core neurotransmitters involved in mood, motivation, and also learning. When the gut microbiome is disrupted, it drives systemic inflammation. Pro-inflammatory cytokines from the gut can cross the blood-brain barrier and directly suppress BDNF signaling and long-term potentiation, which is the cellular mechanism of learning, as we've discussed earlier. And research has even shown that gut dysfunction may be the origin point of some neurodegenerative diseases, especially in Parkinson's. Because in Parkinson's disease, gastrointestinal symptoms precede motor symptoms by years, actually by decades sometimes. And misfolded proteins can travel from the gut to the brain via the vagus nerve. So for brain rewiring purposes, the practical implication is this. If your gut is chronically inflamed, it's sending a constant antiplasticity signal to your brain. So dietary changes that reduce gut inflammation, well, these are removing a biological brake on BDNF production and on your capacity to form new neural pathways. So now you can see the full picture. 4 systems, 1 molecule, all connected together. But knowing this is only useful if you know how to stack them in the right order. Most people try to rewire their brain while their body is actively working against them. And the protocol is, well, it's about flipping the order. The research points to a specific sequence. So the first step should remove the brakes, and that is to address chronic stress and sleep first. These are the systems actively suppressing BDNF production and destroying new neural pathways. And you cannot out-exercise or out-supplement a dysregulated stress response and broken sleep. So remember, this is the baseline work. And again, check the free brain rewiring starter quiz to see where you are. And then the second step is to press the accelerator. And this requires to add consistent exercise, ideally complex movement that combines physical and cognitive challenge. This is what manufactures BDNF and, well, starts creating the biological conditions for neuroplasticity. Then the third step is to clear interference. And you can do this by supporting gut health to reduce the chronic inflammatory signals that are blocking BDNF at the cellular level. And then at step 4, it is to time the mental work. You have to layer in your cognitive rewiring such as new habits and thought patterns, learning, journaling, visualization, whatever you chose. And you do these during your biological windows of peak plasticity. Specifically, BDNF is elevated for 1 to 2 hours after exercise. And that's your, well, golden window. And then just trust that sleep will consolidate these changes overnight. The single thread connecting all 4 systems is inflammation. They all converge on inflammation, and inflammation suppresses BDNF. Exercise is one of the most potent anti-inflammatory interventions we have. So even small improvements across multiple systems compound. And you do not need to be perfect at all 4. However, reducing inflammation from any direction frees up BDNF across the board. So this is a baseline before goals at the molecular level, and it completely reframes what brain rewiring actually is. Your brain is not a standalone organ sitting in isolation. It's listening to every signal your body sends, from your gut to your muscles, your stress hormones, and your sleep cycles. And right now those signals are either telling it it's safe to change or stay exactly as you are because we're in danger. The BDNF protocol is about making sure your body gives your brain permission to rewire. So don't beat yourself up too much for not sticking to your habits, because you might just be asking your mind to do something your body hasn't made it possible yet. So fix the body's signals first, and your brain will follow. Try it.